Mhm. So yeah, the game plan for today is that you'll have a presentation with me here, and then afterwards, depending on what the time is, we might take a break or we might go into your group projects, and then we'll be working through our group projects after that. And then at 8:30, that's when we are going to be coming back and talking about the hackathon. And then I also completed the video game app. That one should be all up and running. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Take it away, me.
Thanks, Henry. Hello, everyone. So tonight we're going to talk about Agile, a little Agile, Scrum, Kanban. If anyone's here ever worked in an Agile environment, let me know. Let's see. I've also added these slides to Slack. So I've dropped them into Slack so you can follow along with the slides so you don't have to take like massive notes. Slide color is orange because my favorite color is orange. So let's see here. I got this from my professor in college. It's always nice to know a little bit about the person that's talking, their resume, their background. So this is mine. I'll start from the very bottom. I was a medical assistant right out of high school and college. Did a little stuff in design, but mainly spent a lot of my time in IT. So spent a lot of time in IT. And I started a couple of different companies. None of them really took off until DevPoint. I was a former member of the Echo School of Business board up there with them. And then I started DevPoint. I got my bachelor's in information systems and my master's in information systems, but I dropped out 5 credits away from graduating to start DevPoint Labs. So there's that. Has anyone here ever heard of Agile or currently working in Agile?
I've heard of it, but I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Okay. Well, we're gonna do a little crash course into what it is here. I'm gonna go to Indeed. Who here has been to Indeed.com? If you haven't, you're probably going to be very familiar with it after the course because it's a great search engine for jobs that are out there. I'm going to type in JavaScript for what and where is the location in Salt Lake City, and let's see what we get. Okay, so in looking for jobs that have JavaScript in their description and in Salt Lake City, Utah, we got over 1,002 jobs that have that. Okay, let's scroll down. Let's see what else it is. WordPress developer, UView student, application system analyst, full stack developer, associate front-end engineer, junior software developer, full stack developer, IT specialist, software developer. So basically all these job titles are jobs you should be able to qualify for after the course. I'm going to dig a little deeper into the subject that we're talking about today. Type in Agile. Let's put Agile combined with that. Let's see what we get. We got 351 jobs out there in Salt Lake City, Utah that have JavaScript and Agile in their job description. So let's see. First one we got, front-end developer. Where do we find Agile in here? Let's see where they list Agile. Reading through here. Well, let's do a quick search. We'll do a quick find. Agile. Oh, it's not going to do it for me in this one that I'm looking at. Okay. Oh, wait. No, there it is. Following Agile development methodologies. Okay. So successful candidates should experience in the following. Let's find something else. Let's see what else they got. Full stack developer Sky team. What do we got here? You'll work in an Agile team alongside some really cool developers and product people. Let's see what the next one is. We got Agile anywhere in here? Oh, looks like right there. Enjoy a highly collaborative team environment using Agile workflow with continuous integration. Okay, let's keep going. What else we got here? Software developer from Pearson. What do they got? Actively participating in Agile scrums every day. Okay, let's see what else. Associate front-end developer or front-end engineer, sorry. Oh, they got it listed multiple times, it looks like. Participate in Agile development process and code reviews. So a lot of these pop up. a lot of it pop up when we're looking for Agile. Let's do another different search. Let's say now that we're all working online, remote work is more natural than ever. You can apply for a job that's in New York, California, Texas, and live in Utah and work remotely, right? So let's say the same thing, but someone give me a city out there that we should check out. Where's a city that you might want to work at?
Seattle.
Seattle. Okay. Let's type that in. Oh, sorry. Seattle, Washington. Find job. Let's do the same thing. Something with JavaScript and Agile in their job description. What do we got? 1,460 jobs. Quite a few, right? And let's see what they say. Junior programmer analyst. I also want to bring up Agile so we can jump right into it and see where it's listed on there. Oh, there we go. The software team is guided by Agile development principles. Let's see the next one. This is from Amazon.com, front-end engineer. They also have Agile listed. Solid coding practices, including peer code reviews, unit testing, and a preference for Agile development. Okay. So we're seeing this all the time. We're seeing this everywhere. So let's go into it and let's do a quick kind of like crash course into what Agile is. This is the history of Agile. This is where it came from. Like all the great things that came, like Wi-Fi, the internet, it came from the military. It has its roots from the US military. So this is kind of like the nitty gritty. To me, it's the boring stuff. But if you want to get into it, feel free. But what it is, it's essentially process control models, or how do we manage this project? How do we get working together to finish it up? What you're doing, primary portfolio project, that is essentially a project in itself right there, right? So there's really two ways to do things. There is the linear defined way or an empirical way to do things. In the linear defined way, you see something like more of a bucket waterfall system. Empirical, it's something that's more inspect and adapt that we keep doing. You can apply these two kind of like models to anything you're doing. Like, let's say you're planning a wedding, planning a vacation, planning on building a shed, planning on building a house, anything like that, you can use this type of model. Now, the most important one, or not the most important one, the most popular one before Agile was the waterfall product development cycle, which is the left side here. And it's really simple. Has anyone ever heard of the PMP?
Yes.
Yeah, so the PMP, what do you know about the PMP? Whoever said yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get that name.
It's just an organization that gives certification for project management, like certifications, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's basically just a certification to know how to run projects based on this sort of development cycle. Let's look up PMP. Let's see what we get under there. So the PMP, there is an organization called the PMI. Let's see, the first one. The PMI is a Project Management Institute. They are the overarching organization that does the certification, the course and training to get your PMP. And the PMP is basically just a project management certification. Let me scroll down and get the requirements here. So how to get your PMP, you need a 4-year degree or 36 months of leading a project, or 34, and adding on to that, 35 hours of training for the exam, or a high school diploma, associate degree, or 5 years of leading projects and also studying for the exam. What is the exam? The exam is going to cost you $405 if you're a member. You have to take it and you have to pass it. I think it's a excuse me. There's some water. All the talking got my throat kind of dry. Sorry about that. But in order to take it, you got to apply for it. and pay the fee. And it's not too small. It's $405. And I think you got to like do it every 4 or 5 years to renew it too. So this is kind of like the industry standard for project management. If you're in oil and gas, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in production, and PMP is relevant internationally to all this. So what is it? Like what is the project management professional certification? It's basically going over this sort of development of how to build or maintain a project. First one is requirements, design, development, test, deployment, and maintain. I'm going to take, for example, let's say we're building a car. Let's say we're manufacturing a car. So I'm going to take that, for example. On the first bucket, requirement, when you're building a car, you have to gather all the necessary requirements to build that car. So that consists of all the nuts, the bolts, all the wiring, all the sheet metal, everything that's needed, material needed to build a car is in the requirement stage. So at the very beginning, you know exactly how many nuts and pieces, how much it weighs, of what the car is going to look like at the very beginning, right? Design phase, this is what the car kind of like looks like. This is like, is it 2-door? Is it a truck? Is it an SUV? It goes through a design stage. Development, probably the assembly line of when the car is being developed and put together. Robotics, humans, whatever it is, all the pieces come together in the development stage. Testing, this is when the car is tested to make sure it's safe and it functions as it should. So really self-explanatory there. Deployment is probably your dealer network. Where do you send the cars after it's being finished so that consumers can purchase it, right? Unless you're Tesla and can sell straight online, you're probably going to send the car to a dealership. And then afterwards, maintain. You need to be able to maintain the car. Tires, oil changes, if things break, where do you go fix it? So probably like a dealer network or a hotline that you can call if anything is wrong with your car, right? So that is essentially the development network of the waterfall to product development cycle. Now, back in the 60s and 70s, we didn't know any better, so we used this very same process for software. Can you see where there could be bottlenecks, waste, and like a lot of time useless when you're using this cycle? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's say if someone's working in testing, deployment, or maintenance, and there's a problem in design, the design of the car is wrong, everyone that's working down here has to wait to make sure that the design is perfect before they can move on. So there could be a lot of bottleneck. So what happens? Today, there's a new environment. There's one main constant, change. Requirements, technologies, and customer preference, they change all the time. Let's say you're building a website for a client. A week from now, you meet with the client again, they have a brand new list of features that they want added, right? That happens all the time. Businesses, they're always racing to be the first to market, so they want to respond fast to change. So teams, they need to be able to adapt and respond to the change to be competitive to the market. So you have organizations, they need to be able to reduce waste to meet their goals. They need to find a different way to do things than this, right? So what happened? You got some pretty cool people from Toyota, MIT, and lean thought leaders. If you ever heard of just-in-time production, if you ever heard of Six Sigma, this is kind of where it all came from. And Agile Lean. These organizations, they started to focus on reducing waste and trying to find a new way to do things rather than the traditional waterfall method, right? So businesses are in a race to be first to market. Teams, they need to be able to adapt to change and respond to the market as fast as possible. So this is what they came up with. Oh, sorry, I read that slide twice. Let me go up here. So what came about? We got Agile Lean. That's what came from it. We got software experts and thought leaders that started to explore different frameworks that were more lightweight and responsive to change. Instead of multiple different buckets like this, is there a way that we can reduce all this down to something more simple like this? That's what they were going after. So the results, agile, lean, and value-driven approaches. This is agile. This is what they came up with. So in its simplest form, it's really 4 lines, right? Let me read it. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. While we value the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. Okay, so let's go a little deeper. Let's go straight into the agilemanifesto.org, a website that looks like it hasn't been updated in decades. Doesn't even have its like secure SSL certificate, but this is the official documentation of Agile. When the company's out there, when the job posting is talking about working in Agile, this is what it's talking about. So here's what we just read. These are the people that came up with it, and they're also pictured in the background image. Who can guess what the location of this picture is? Anyone guess where this picture was taken? It seems like all these guys got together. I'm pretty sure they're all guys, got together and formed this the manifesto.
It was in Utah, wasn't it?
It is in Utah. Good guess there. How did you know that? So this. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Were you asking me how I knew?
Yeah, how'd you know?
Oh, so I'm certified as a product owner and a Scrum Master via the Agile.
No wonder. Yeah, you've probably been through this whole history stuff.
So yeah, I've been through this. Sorry, I'll just mute myself now.
Oh, you're good. Don't worry, Joy. So the background image is taken in Utah. This is actually in Snowbird, Utah. So Agile, to its core, what started here in Utah. That's kind of cool to know. All these guys met up in Snowbird, Utah, came up with this manifesto, and then also they've broken it up into 12 more principles here. So 12 more things that will kind of like show us what Agile is. Right now, I want everyone in the class to read a paragraph in here. We'll take turns and we'll go through all 12 and we'll each read this. I'll start. Principles behind Agile Manifesto. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Anyone else want to feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I got this one. So welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness, excuse me, change for the customer's competitive advantage.
Thank you. Let's keep going.
I can take this next one. Deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to the shorter timescale.
Awesome. Let's keep going. Oh, there we go.
I'll read it. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project.
Thank you. Next up.
I got it. Build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done.
And next up.
The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation.
Great. Next up.
Yeah, I can do this one. Working software is the primary measure of progress.
Awesome.
Easy.
Easy.
I can do this next one. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely.
Thank you. Let's keep going.
Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility.
Almost there. Some people might have to do it twice.
I can
Yeah,
go.
get this one. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential.
All right, 2 more.
The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams.
Perfect. And then the last one.
I can do it. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly.
Nice, thank you. Kind of like how we were self-organizing and able to get reading through all this together. So we just barely read through all that. So the agile principles, this is kind of what it breaks down to. Collaboration, time boxing, continuous feedback improvement, self-organizing teams, simplicity, retrospective, continuous delivery, inspect, adapt cycle, sustainable pace. We read through all this and more. And if you ever need, feel free to come back to this. This is the website, agilemanifesto.org. So if you're ever fuzzy about it, feel free to jump in. So that's the principles of telling us how to kind of work in Agile better. But even more, how do we use Agile? Like there are actually frameworks in Agile that's going to help you utilize the principles even more. The two that we're going to talk about today is Scrum and Kanban, but there are other ones out there that you'll probably hear of: Extreme Programming, Lean, Crystal, and FDD. I don't know anything about DSDM, so I'm sorry I can't speak on too much of that, but feel free. You can always do your research and learn more. And this is also good because when you're out there looking for these jobs and they say they're working in Agile development, when you're on the interview, here's your chance to ask for more. What kind of Agile development? What kind of frameworks do you use? You know, like, is it Scrum? Is it Kanban? This is going to give you a glimpse on how the team works so you can get a more familiar with them. So, all right, let's keep moving here. Iterative and incremental. All right, really important. When you're building software, you have to be both iterative and incremental. Okay. I know it sounds kind of confusing, but it makes sense once you think it out and think about the client in the end. So what is iterative and incremental development? Can anyone take a stab at that?
I mean, from the pictures, it kind of looks like the incremental, they'll build out each piece fully until it's completed. And then the iterative, it looks like they outline the entire project and then sort of work on the entirety until it's completed.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest thing that I like to take away from this is you can't ship your client broken code, or you can't give them like a GitHub repository and expect them to do something with it, right? You kind of got to give them like the website, the web application, like even if it's in the very beginning, kind of like the skins and bones of what it's going to look like. So when you're building software, you need to be both incremental and iterative, because working through iterations just means that you're doing this development of the application into smaller chunks and keep doing it through the cycle until you're finished at the end of what it looks like. So just think of it. You can't give your client broken code or just code. They don't know what to do with it. So you got to give them something to work with. So that's what it means through iterative and incremental development. Scrum. All right. So probably the most popular framework under Agile is Scrum. A lot of tech companies out there use it, from large to small. It's got its name from rugby. Does anyone know what a scrum is in rugby?
Isn't it kind of like a, I don't know, like a drop-in match or something?
Yeah,
like teammates against each other or something?
Yeah, like I don't know too much about it, but from what I do know, it's kind of like when a dead ball happens and both teams, basically this picture, both teams are huddled together and they're pushing each other opposite sides from their team when the ref drops the ball in to get the ball. So they're basically just working together to get the ball, pushing each other in the Scrum huddle. So that's what it's got its name from. But Scrum in our Agile sense, this is what it is. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth between this picture and this here. This is like the two same thing. So this picture is kind of outlining what Scrum is and all the processes that happens, but this is what it breaks up into: the roles, the activities, and the artifacts. Artifacts are basically what gets produced from your Scrum. So with the roles, you got your Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Team. Scrum Master is basically the project manager. If you ever hear of when you're working on a project and there's a project manager, it's basically a Scrum Master. Product Owner, this is kind of like your client or your team or your company, whatever, whoever's telling you what to build, team made up of a bunch of different people to get the work done. And we'll go through all the activities here in the picture. So I'll start here from the Scrum framework. Here we talked about the product owner, Scrum Master, and your team. So these are the three main kind of groups of people involved in the Scrum framework. Product owner tells you what to build, right? So this could be your client, your company, your team lead, like whoever is on top telling you what to build based on features, broken up into basically the simplest form of how to build in code, like sign in, footer, carousel, just things like that that need to be built out for the application or web page. This goes into features, into a list called the product backlog. This just makes sure that everything is built out to finish the product, to finish out the application, right? So this whole list is all the features that need to be built out to finish the application. And then we move to team. So here it says team selects how much to do, commit to do by sprint's end. So a sprint is anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks of working together, of building to get the job done. So now the team, it's really important here. It says the team selects on how much they want to build into a smaller list called a sprint backlog. Rather than focusing on the entire list, they're probably only going to grab 2 or 3 features from here and just do it in a smaller backlog and into a smaller sprint, right? So rather than focus on like maybe a whole bunch of lists of features that need to be done, we're only going to focus on 3. And we're only going to work on those 3 during the week or whatever you determine is the time for the sprint. All right, so there's going to be a sprint planning meeting. So the sprint planning meeting, the team decides on what to do and how much to do during that meeting. And then another backlog, basically this sprint backlog is just a smaller subset of features that need to be built out to finish this whole thing, okay? And then here's the cycle. I want to start in the very top right. On the very top right, you got your daily Scrum meeting and artifacts update. So the entire team gets together for something called the daily Scrum. This is really quick. This is anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Everyone's usually standing up and they go around the room and they just update each other on what's happened the previous day, what they finished, what they accomplished, what they need help on, and what else needs to be done. And it's really fast and really simple. They go all around until everyone is updated, okay? This happens every single day, every single day. And then
I
you
have a
have your Scrum
question.
Master. Oh, question, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was wondering, so when we become like web developers and everything, I was wondering, so are we, no matter in what situation or what position we'll be in, are we going to be using, I guess, Agile? Yeah, are we going to be using Agile and Scrum?
That's a really great question. So will you be using Agile and Scrum as a web developer? It really depends on the company. Really depends on the company and what they're used to. But for the majority of the time, Agile and Scrum is a really big part of it. You know, a lot of times you will use this if they don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you.
So good question there. Yeah. Does that kind of answer your question, or can I keep going? Sorry.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So this is important because eventually you'll probably run into a team or company that uses this. So, all right, where was I at? So the daily Scrum meeting, Scrum Master. All right, Scrum Master, we kind of already talked about that. That's the person that makes sure basically everyone is working well together and the communication is good and everything is flowing. They might not be a developer or designer or do anything else, but making sure the project is moving smoothly. You do this every single day until you finish out the project, until you finish out the backlog and all the features lists, all the way until you can ship something that's finished, like a working product or a working website, right? At the end of it, you have a review. You usually review at the end of it to see what works, what hasn't worked, and how we can improve from it. You keep doing this every single week until the sprint is done. Every single time something's finished, you make sure you check it off into something called the product backlog refinement. You're basically just checking off everything you finished. And then at the very end of the project, let's say you ship it, it's out to the client. The very last meeting you have is called a retrospective. And the retrospective is everyone getting together and they just work on, or they meet and they talk about what worked and what didn't work and how they can improve on working together on the next project. Okay, so this is another view of what we looked here is the roles, the activities, and what gets produced, the artifacts. So we talked about the 3 different roles, Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Team. And then the activities, what we talked about was release planning, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and backlog refinement. And these are the things that get produced from that. Okay. Any questions there? I know it can be confusing and daunting right now because you've never done it, but you should try to practice this in your primary portfolio projects. Try to do a daily Scrum. Try to have someone designated as the Scrum Master, project manager, and try to like do all this too. So any questions there about the Scrum framework?
I had a question real
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
So I was wondering, so is it basically like our meetings that we have on, that we're gonna be having on Wednesday, is that basically like a Scrum meeting? Like to
Yeah.
prepare us or give us a little bit of.
I think the meeting that you're having every Wednesday is with the product owner. So your daily Scrum meeting should be every single day with your team that's building it.
Oh, okay.
And then every Wednesday, you're meeting with the product owner to update them on what's finished. And that's only once a week, where else the other ones is every day you're meeting with a team to see what we've done and what we can accomplish. So kind of get that?
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we actually
Cool.
do that with our Trello. So that's how
Exactly.
we apply.
Yeah. Next one, Henry's barely already jumped into that, is the Kanban is another way to do it other than Scrum. Kanban's probably one of the most simplest way to practice Agile, okay? And in its simplest term is a 3-bucket system. You're probably already using it here if you've used Trello. So I'm pretty sure Henry's got you set up on Trello. It's got its roots from Toyota, from the Kanban system, from just-in-time production. So if you do some history and research, that's where it came from. But here's what it is. 4-step, 4 principles. You visualize the workflow. In its simplest term is a 3-bucket system. You have your to-do bucket, your in-process bucket, and your done bucket. So in Trello, this is kind of like your board, right? You have your board here, board here, board here, and then cards in each of those boards. And then each of those cards can be color-coded and added notes or references to what you're working on or what needs to be done. All right, really important here. Number 2, limit work in process. Why is it important that the in process bucket has very limited?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What would you ask?
Yeah, for like, why is it important that in a 3-bucket system, the middle bucket for the in process, why is it important that it's very limited to only maybe 1 card each? Like a person should be able to only put 1 card in the in process.
Would it be
Is that
to
just
keep
like,
your, oh, go ahead, Danny.
no, you're good, you're good. Go for it.
Would it be to like keep your focus on that task till completion?
Exactly. You're exactly right. To be able to keep your tasks on that, rather than, let's say, I'm someone that wants to grab 3 or 4 different tasks, put it in the in bucket, and in reality, am I really working on 3 or 4 things at the same time? No, right? I can only work on 1 thing at a time. So just grab 1 thing, get it done, move it to the done bucket, and then do it again and grab another card. So number 3, you're basically just focusing on the flow from left to right, moving cards from the left board all the way to the right and just doing it again. Number 4, continuous improvement.
So with that, I guess like in coding, is it basically like, because I know we're going to be doing a lot of group projects and stuff like that when we, get jobs and everything. That's what, it's all about. Everyone has like an assignment, everyone, does their part.
Exactly.
But is it kind of like, I don't know, we're working on a project and we're pushing it to GitHub. If we're not communicating or we're doing multiple things at one time, it's possible to get confused and like end up breaking the
Totally.
code.
Yeah. Let's say you're totally on the right track. Let's say you're putting as long as you're moving the cards, let's say you're pushing something to GitHub, move that card once you push it to GitHub and then grab something else that you need to do. So just making sure that whatever you're doing corresponds to whatever's on like your Trello card.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, visualize. Why is that important? Here we're all using Trello. Another great form of it when you're in person is using Post-it notes or whiteboards. But for our class, we're going to be using Trello. So everyone is going to be able to get the link. Everyone's going to be able to edit, add notes, or move cards around in Trello, right? So everyone's going to have access to that. So why is it important? Transparency. 2, you're able to see bottlenecks, wasteful processes, or procrastination. Let's say if a card is stuck somewhere too long, someone can jump in and help out. Someone can jump in and see why, right? And then 3, focus. Focus on tasks versus remembering. Everybody hates remembering things, but if you know where things are, if you have the link to look at your project on what to do next, all you need to do is go back there to look at it rather than remember. And then 4, collaboration. Everyone should be involved on this. It's a Trello card. Everyone should be able to move cards, edit, add images, whatever they need to the card. Limit work in process. We talked about this. Multitasking, it doesn't work. So you should try to get to the done by putting your limits on the doing bucket. So this bucket here in the middle should have a limit. You should have a limit of 3 or 1 each person, so that you can focus on moving the cards rather than grabbing all the cards and not getting anything done, right? Okay. Keys for successful visual tools, keeping it simple, kind of like self-explanatory there. 2, make key information visible to all. Make sure everyone has a link, or make sure everyone knows where the Trello cards are. 3, identify impediment to progress. So if something's stuck too long or someone's working on something too long, you all should be able to jump in and help out and try to move things along faster, right? And then 4, keeping the team focused on outcome. It's essentially just moving the cards, going from left to right to get the project done. And then 5, really important in Agile, if the tools and whatever you're doing isn't working, it's not effective, change it up. It's not meant to be one form-fitting thing. There's a lot of different ways to practice Agile. Any questions there about Kanban, of what we talked about? Probably the most simplest form of Agile.
So with the Agile frameworks, I mean, usually when I see the word framework, I think like React or like Django or like any of those different. So these different like Scrum and Lean, these are just different methods of like keeping a team organized through like production, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is kind of like, this is kind of like the soft skill frameworks, you know, like learning about like all the hard skills. Now it's a soft skill working together.
Yeah, I saw framework. I was like, oh, here we go. We got another one.
Yeah, this is a lot easier. No code necessary is how I like to view it.
Cool, thank you.
Of course. Agile. So what have we learned here? So there's no silver bullet in Agile. There's so many different ways to do it. You can do it Kanban, you can do Scrum. So when we're on Indeed and we look at all these jobs and they say they're working in Agile development, you should be able to, when you're at a job interview, dig deeper, right? You should be able to ask them, like, what sort of Agile framework do you practice? Do you work in Scrum? Do you work in Kanban? So that you can get a more familiarity of what the team and environment's going to be like, right? So there's that. Number 2, responding to change versus following a plan. Agile is always about responding to change. The plan is out the window when you're working in Agile, because we already talked about that. Preferences, clients, and all those things change all the time. Any arguments there? Okay, let's move on. People are not resources. When you're building software, when you're building a web application, a website, throwing more people on the project is not going to get it done faster. Because think about it. If you're bringing someone new along on the project to try to get things moving faster, what if they don't know your code base? What if they don't know React? What if they don't know Ruby on Rails? What if they don't know the language that you're building the project on? Because in web development, you can do it on so many different ways, right? So by throwing some more people on the project, it's not going to get it done faster because people are not resources. And that's one of the awesome things that Agile acknowledges. And it's really great for developers because of that, right? Okay, self-explanatory. Let's move on. Visualize for the win. Really kind of get what we see there. If everyone can see it, if everyone knows where it is, then everyone should be able to get rolling. Okay, time boxing. This is really important. We talked about time boxing, how it's one of the principles of Agile. What is it? What's time boxing? Another time boxing is the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is just tomato in Italian. It's got its name from the tomato kitchen timer when you're cooking. So really simple, this is what it is. So let's say you decide on one simple task that you want to focus on, one feature that you want to try to work on the project. Grab that feature, decide on it, grab a timer, take out your phone, take out a kitchen timer, whatever it is, set it to 25, 30 minutes. Give yourself that self-allotted time of like half an hour. And during that time, get rid of all your distractions. Social media, your cell phone, family, kids. Try to make sure that they are not in the way during that time that you gave yourself and work on it. Really focus on that task, whether that's researching something, trying to figure out a feature. During that 25, 30-minute time, that's all you're doing. All outside distraction is gone. And then once the timer goes off, once that 25, 30 minutes goes off, take a break. Even if you didn't get it done, even if you're halfway through, even if you're not even close to finishing, take a break. Take a 5-minute break. Okay? Why is that important? Because that's going to make you not burn out. Because what you're doing, it's so repetitive, it's so easy to get lost into it. Breaks, they are rewards out there. Okay? So take a short 5-minute break after your 25, 30-minute time box. And then after maybe a longer, maybe like 4 or 5 of these time boxes, take a longer break. Or if you finish it, or if you solve it, if you get the feature done, take a longer break. Take a 15, 30-minute break, go eat, go play a video game, go walk your dog, do something, go spend time with the family, all right? And then go come back and do it again. This makes it so that you don't burn out. It's so easy as a software developer, as a web developer, that you're constantly looking at something over and over and over again, doing the same thing and not getting any refreshes. So time boxing is important, it works. And a lot of great developers, this is what they employ so that they don't go crazy. Okay, any questions there about time boxing?
I actually used this when I was prepping for the course. I like read about it on Reddit. I was like, I'm gonna try this. It's great.
Yep. It worked out, right?
Yeah, so far so good.
Exactly. Keep going at it. Don't stop. All right. That's time boxing. And then my last one I got is multitasking is a myth, right? Can everyone agree on that? Can anyone disagree on that with me?
I think drummers can disagree.
That's a different kind of that's a different kind of industry and sport kind of thing. So, but when you're building software, you can't multitask. You got to focus. So good there. Usually right now, we'd be doing something a little practice into Agile on how to work together and actually implementing like the Scrum framework. But you all here are beyond that. So I'm going to do something different. We're going to see, has anyone ever heard of Spotify before?
Nope.
No one's ever heard of Spotify? The largest music platform out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm going to show a video about Spotify, how they work, how they implement Scrum, how they implement Agile as a work environment. They are a company of thousands of people, and they all work, most of them do work remote and away from each other. And let's see how they implement Agile into their kind of like ecosystem here. Let's make sure the sound works. Can everyone hear this?
Yeah, I can hear.
All right, good.
One of the big success factors here at Spotify is our agile engineering culture. Culture tends to be invisible. We don't notice it because it's there all the time, kind of like the air we breathe. But if everyone understands the culture, we're more likely to be able to keep it and even strengthen it as we grow. So that's the purpose of this video. When our first music player was launched in 2008, we were pretty much a Scrum company. Scrum is a well-established agile development approach, and it gave us a nice team-based culture. However, a few years later, we had grown into a bunch of teams and found that some of the standard Scrum practices were actually getting in the way. So we decided to make all this optional. Rules are a good start, but then break them when needed. We decided that Agile matters more than Scrum, and Agile principles matter more than any specific practices. So we renamed the Scrum Master role to Agile Coach because we wanted servant leaders more than process masters. We also started using the term squad instead of Scrum team, and our key driving force became autonomy. So what is an autonomous squad? A squad is a small, cross-functional, self-organizing team, usually less than 8 people. They sit together and they have end-to-end responsibility for the stuff they build. Design, commit, deploy, maintenance, operations, the whole thing. Each squad has a long-term mission, such as make Spotify the best place to discover music, or internal stuff like infrastructure for A/B testing. Autonomy basically means that the squad decides what to build, how to build it, and how to work together while doing it. There are, of course, some boundaries to this, such as the squad mission, the overall product strategy for whatever area they are working on, and short-term goals that are renegotiated every quarter. Our office is optimized for collaboration. Here's a typical squad area. The squad members work closely together here with adjustable desks and easy access to each other's screens. They gather over here in the lounge for things like planning sessions and retrospectives. And back there is a huddle room for smaller meetings or just to get some quiet time. Almost all walls are whiteboards. So why is autonomy so important? Well, because it's motivating, and motivated people build better stuff. Also, autonomy makes us fast by letting decisions happen locally in the squad instead of via a bunch of managers and committees and stuff. It helps us minimize handoffs and waiting so we can scale without getting bogged down with dependencies and coordination. Although each squad has its own mission, they need to be aligned with product strategy, company priorities, and other squads. Basically, be a good citizen in the Spotify ecosystem. Spotify's overall mission is more important than any individual squad. So the key principle is really be autonomous, but don't sub-optimize. It's kind of like a jazz band. Although each musician is autonomous and plays his own instrument, they listen to each other and focus on the whole song together. That's how great music is created. So our goal is loosely coupled, but tightly aligned squads. We're not all there yet, but we experiment a lot with different ways of getting closer. In fact, that applies to most things in this video. This culture description is really a mix of what we are today and what we are trying to become in the future. Alignment and autonomy may seem like different ends of a scale, as in more autonomy equals less alignment. However, we think of it more like 2 different dimensions. Down here is low alignment and low autonomy, a micromanagement culture. No high-level purpose, just shut up and follow orders. Up here is high alignment, but still low autonomy. So leaders are good at communicating what problem needs to be solved, but they're also telling people how to solve it. High alignment and high autonomy means leaders focus on what problem to solve, but let the teams figure out how to solve it. What about down here then? Low alignment and high autonomy means teams do whatever they want and basically all run in different directions. Leaders are helpless and our product becomes a Frankenstein. We're trying hard to be up here, aligned autonomy. And we keep experimenting with different ways of doing that. So alignment enables autonomy. The stronger alignment we have, the more autonomy we can afford to grant. That means the leader's job is to communicate what problem needs to be solved and why. And the squads collaborate with each other to find the best solution. One consequence of autonomy is that we have very little standardization. When people ask things like, which code editor do you use? Or how do you plan? The answer is mostly, depends on which squad. Some do Scrum sprints, others do Kanban. Some estimate stories and measure velocity, others don't. It's really up to each squad. Instead of formal standards, we have a strong culture of cross-pollination. When enough squads use a specific practice or tool, such as Git, that becomes the path of least resistance, and other squads tend to pick the same tool. Squads start supporting that tool and helping each other, and it becomes like a de facto standard. This informal approach gives us a healthy balance between consistency and flexibility. Our architecture is based on over 100 separate systems coded and deployed independently. There's plenty of interaction, but each system focuses on one specific need, such as playlist management, search, or monitoring. We try to keep them small and decoupled with clear interfaces and protocols. Technically, each system is owned by one squad. In fact, most squads own several, but we have an internal open source model, and our culture is more about sharing than owning. Suppose squad 1 here needs something done in system B, and squad 2 knows that code best. They'll typically ask squad 2 to do it. However, if squad 2 doesn't have time or they have other priorities, then squad 1 doesn't necessarily need to wait. We hate waiting. Instead, they're welcome to go ahead and edit the code themselves and then ask squad 2 to review the changes. So anyone can edit any code, but we have a culture of peer code review. This improves quality and, more importantly, spreads knowledge. Over time, we've evolved design guidelines, code standards, and other things to reduce engineering friction, but only when badly needed. So on a scale from authoritative to liberal, we're definitely more on the liberal side. Now, none of this would work if it wasn't for the people. We have a really strong culture of mutual respect. I keep hearing comments like, my colleagues are awesome. People often give credit to each other for great work and seldom take credit for themselves. Considering how much talent we have here, there is surprisingly little ego. One big aha for new hires is that autonomy is kind of scary at first. You and your squad mates are expected to find your own solution. No one will tell you what to do. But it turns out, if you ask for help, you get lots of it and fast. There's genuine respect for the fact that we're all in this boat together and need to help each other succeed. We focus a lot on motivation. Here's an example, an actual email from the head of people operations. Hi, everyone. Our employee satisfaction survey says 91% enjoy working here and 4% don't. Now that may seem like a pretty high satisfaction rate, especially considering our growth pain. From 2006 to 2013, we've doubled every year and now have over 1,200 people. But then he continues, this is of course not satisfactory and we want to fix it. If you're one of those unhappy 4%, please contact us. We're here for your sake and nothing else. So good enough isn't good enough. Half a year later, things had improved and satisfaction rate was up to 94%. This strong focus on motivation has helped us build up a pretty good reputation as a workplace, but we still have plenty of problems to deal with. So yeah, we need to keep improving. Okay, so we have over 50 squads spread across 4 cities. Some kind of structure is needed. Currently, squads are grouped into tribes. A tribe is a lightweight matrix. Each person is a member of a squad as well as a chapter. The squad is the primary dimension, focusing on product delivery and quality, while the chapter is a competency area, such as quality assistance, agile coaching, or web development. As squad member, my chapter lead is my formal line manager, a servant leader focusing on coaching and mentoring me as an engineer, so I can switch squads without getting a new manager. It's a pretty picture, huh? Except that it's not really true. In reality, the lines aren't nice and straight, and things keep changing. Here's a real-life example from one moment in time for one tribe. And of course, it's all different by now. And that's okay. The most valuable communication happens in informal and unpredictable ways. To support this, we also have guilds. A guild is a lightweight community of interest, where people across the whole company gather and share knowledge within a specific area. For example, leadership, web development, or continuous delivery. Anyone can join or leave a guild at any time. Guilds typically have a mailing list, biannual conferences, and other informal communication methods. Most organizational charts are an illusion, so our main focus is community rather than hierarchical structures. We've found that a strong enough community can get away with an informal, volatile structure. If you always need to know exactly who is making decisions, you're in the wrong place. One thing that matters a lot for autonomy is how easily can we get our stuff into production. If releasing is hard, we'll be tempted to release seldom to avoid the pain. That means each release is bigger and therefore even harder. It's a vicious cycle. But if releasing is easy, we can release often. That means each release is smaller and therefore easier. To stay in this loop and avoid that one, we encourage small, frequent releases and invest heavily in test automation and continuous delivery infrastructure. Release should be routine, not drama. Sometimes we make big investments to make releasing easier. For example, the original Spotify desktop client was a single monolithic application. In the early days, with just a handful of developers, that was fine. But as we grew, this became a huge problem. Dozens of squads had to synchronize with each other for each release, and it could take months to get a stable version. Instead of creating lots of process and rules and stuff to manage this, we changed the architecture to enable decoupled releases. Using Chromium embedded framework, the client is now basically a web browser in disguise. Each section is like a frame on a website, and squads can release their own stuff directly. As part of this architectural change, we started seeing each client platform as a client app and evolved 3 different flavors of squads: client app squads, feature squads, and infrastructure squads. A feature squad focuses on one feature area, such as search. This squad will build, ship, and maintain search-related features on all platforms. A client app squad focuses on making release easy on one specific client platform, such as desktop, iOS, or Android. Infrastructure squads focus on making other squads more effective. They provide tools and routines for things like continuous delivery, A/B testing, monitoring, and operations. Regardless of the current structure, we always strive for a self-service model, kind of like a buffet. The restaurant staff don't serve you directly. They enable you to serve yourself. So we avoid handoffs like the plague. For example, an operations squad or client app squad does not put code into production for people. Instead, their job is to make it easy for feature squads to put their own code into production. Despite the self-service model, we sometimes need a bit of sync between squads when doing releases. We manage this using release trains and feature toggles. Each client app has a release train that departs on a regular schedule, typically every week or every 3 weeks, depending on which client. Just like in the physical world, if trains depart frequently and reliably, you don't need much upfront planning. Just show up and take the next train. Suppose these 3 squads are building stuff, and when the next release train arrives, features A, B, and C are done, while D is still in progress. The release train will include all 4 features, but the unfinished one is hidden using a feature toggle. It may sound weird to release unfinished features and hide them, but it's nice because it exposes integration problems early and minimizes the need for code branches. Unmerged code hides problems and is a form of technical debt. Feature toggles let us dynamically show and hide stuff in test as well as production. In addition to hiding unfinished work, we use this to A/B test and gradually roll out finished features. All in all, our release process is better than it used to be, but we still see plenty of improvement areas, so we'll keep experimenting. This may seem like a scary model, letting each squad put their own stuff into production without any form of centralized control. And we do screw up sometimes, but we've learned that trust is more important than control. Why would we hire someone who we don't trust? Agile at scale requires trust at scale, and that means no politics. It also means no fear. Fear doesn't just kill trust, it kills innovation, because if failure gets punished, people won't dare try new things. So let's talk about failure. Actually, no, let's take a break. Get on your feet, get some coffee.
All right. Let's see. What do y'all think?
Seemed like a great company to work for.
I think when they did this, they had around like 1,200 employees. Can anyone do a search and see how many people work for Spotify right now? What's the employee count at Spotify? So when they went from 1,200, this was back in like 3 years ago. Now it's anyone looking this up?
I think it says
6,554 as of 2020.
Oh, wow. So they gone up from 1,200 employees. Now they're around 6,500. Wow. So they've definitely increased like crazy. And it shows that they have teams that are spread across all different countries and cities, right? They're all not working in the same building. And it's really important for them to use Agile as a framework and kind of like as the principles so that they can all work together, right? What else? What else did you all find interesting about it?
I thought the whole the guilds and the tribes and the different chapters and stuff, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So Spotify is only one company. In Utah, we have a lot of tech companies. You got Adobe, you got MX, you got Microsoft, you got Oracle. Any top tech companies out there, I guarantee they're employing some sort of Agile in their company, very similar to Spotify. So, okay. I thought it was really cool when they talked about how their old legacy thing was just like a big application, and now it's split up into an application that's really a website with just Chromium features. So things that you're learning into this class, you should be able to move up and do things like that to be a developer at Spotify, right? Yeah, a little far-fetched out there, but you all should be able to. So anything else? Anything else that you thought was interesting? That's all I have for today about Scrum, Agile, and the whole project management of how we're supposed to work together when we're building software. It's a lot different when you're building a car than building a web application, right?